Juneteenth is the oldest national celebrated commemoration of the ending of slavery in the United States. Dating back to 1865, it was on June 19th that the Union soldiers led by Major General Gordon Granger landed at Galveston, Texas with the news that the war had ended and the enslaved were now free. Note that this was 2.5 years after President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, which had become official January 1st, 1863. Here's 5 facts about Juneteenth that you might not have known, read from sites such as mentalfloss.com, texasmonthly.com, and juneteenth.com. Let's get into them. Fact number 1. Enslaved people had already been emancipated, they just didn't know it. The June 19th announcement came more than 2.5 years after Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863. So technically, from the Union's perspective, the 250,000 enslaved people in Texas were already free, but none of them were aware of it, and no one was in a rush to inform them. Fact number 2. The announcement actually urged freed men and freed women to stay with their former owners. General Order Number 3, as read by General Granger, said, "The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves. And the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired labor. The freedmen are advised to remain quietly at their present homes and work for wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts and that they will not be supported in any idleness either there or elsewhere." Fact number 3. Many freed slaves immediately left home in what became known as the scatter to find long-lost family members or to settle in the friendlier North. But the glee quickly faded as most black Texans realized that essentially they were still enslaved. Abolitionist Frederick Douglass wrote that his people were free, but without roofs to cover them, or bread to eat, or land to cultivate. In the first chaotic months, the government agency charged with establishing a social structure for the former slaves, the Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, and Abandoned Lands, the Freedmen's Bureau for short, began to set up jobs, schools, and even as early as 1867 an organized Juneteenth party in Austin, Texas to mark the second anniversary of the liberation. Fact number 4. Not all enslaved people were freed instantly. Texas is a large state, and General Granger's orders were slow to spread. According to historian James Smallwood, many enslavers deliberately suppressed the information until after the harvest, and some beyond that. In July 1867, there were 2 separate reports of enslaved people being freed, and one report of a Texas horse thief named Alex Simpson, whose enslaved people were only freed after his hanging in 1868. When freed people tried to celebrate the first anniversary of the announcement a year later, they were faced with a problem. Segregation laws were expanding rapidly, and there were no public places or parks they were permitted to use. So in the 1870s, former enslaved people pulled together $800 and purchased 10 acres of land, which they deemed Emancipation Park. It was the only public park and swimming pool in the Houston area that was open to blacks until 1950s. Fact number 5. Texas was the first state to declare Juneteenth as a state holiday. Texas deemed the holiday worthy of statewide recognition in 1980, becoming the first state to do so. And now, just because I know you want one, an extra bonus fact. Fact number 6. Juneteenth flag designer L.J. Graff packed lots of meaning into her design. The colors red, white, and blue echoed the American flag to symbolize that the enslaved people and their descendants were Americans. The star in the middle pays homage to Texas, while the bursting new star on the horizon of the red and blue fields represents a new freedom and a new people. Being black in America is being an American in America, and we should celebrate our greatness together as a culture along with the hard work of our ancestors that built this country. Yes, we were deemed free from slavery in the fields. However, we're not free until our feet can follow our minds. Let every day be Juneteenth, because celebrating blackness is celebrating you. This is Civics for the Culture, hosted by me, Benny, aka Poetically Williams, right here on Watch Lotus X.